Hello, welcome back. Today I thought I would talk about how I go about editing my photos to get that 35mm film feel to them. So the camera that I shoot on is the Fujifilm X-T3. It's what's recording this video right now. It's also what I shoot pretty much all of my stills on, unless they're actual film stills. Right now I just have like 12 rolls of finished film that I need to send off and get developed, but that's beside the point of this video right now. Fujifilm has a really kind of invested community as far as creating film simulations go. In the Fujifilm community, they call them recipes. So I do sometimes use these film recipes. I will link where I get them. Let me look it up real quick. I forgot what the website is called. I think it's Fuji X Weekly. Yeah, so these recipes that I use sometimes are from Fuji X Weekly. I will link it down below. There are hundreds and hundreds of film simulation recipes on there. And if you're shooting on a Fuji camera, I 100% recommend going there to browse the different recipes that they have. You're gonna find a ton. So I do use those recipes, but lately I've kind of switched to doing a lot of my film simulation on my own in Lightroom. So I thought I would kind of break down what it is I use to get that filmic look and how I kind of go about achieving that with the aesthetic that kind of fits the work that I'm doing right now, which is that rural Minnesota feel. So let's hop over to the computer and we'll jump in Lightroom and I'll break down a couple photos, what I use to edit them, and how I go about getting this filmic look. All right, we're at the computer and I have a photo here ready to go that I'm gonna kind of process how I normally would go through and edit these photos. So we'll jump into Lightroom. So this is the photo that I have. This is what I made the original look like. It has that kind of green cast to the whole image that I like for that film look. It's kind of going towards the direction of Fujifilm Superia. I like that film stock and I like that kind of green tinge to it. So we will jump in with the kind of original JPEG here. And so it looks like I shot this with some added grain. Okay, yeah, so I have grain added in when I took the photo. I just set it up like that on my Fuji. You don't have to do that if you don't know if you want grain on them. You could always just wait and then, use the grain slider here on the side and just add your grain after the fact. So the first thing I did with these is I created a preset to kind of get the photos all going towards the same direction. I think it helps a lot when trying to create a group of photos that fit together. So I created this small town MN film look. All that's really doing is adding some contrast to the image and then adding that slight little bit of green. So we will go ahead and add that. As you can see, we get that slight green going on and we get some more contrast, a little more definition to our image. And we'll be done with the presets now. This is looking a little dark. I think I shot this trying to save any highlights that might be jumping up from the snow, but I think there was really no need for it since it was an overcast day, But either way, we'll bump up the exposure just a little bit till we get to a point where we like it. I think there's about good. So we're going up 0.57. I think we can go a little bit further on the contrast. We'll bring down our blacks. I'm gonna select my shadow clipping and my highlight clipping. So then it'll show me if I'm blowing anything out, these will go to red. And then if I'm crushing any of the blacks, they will turn to blue. Bring the blacks down just a bit before we see
getting crushed into oblivion. It's just a tiny bit, so I'm fine with that. We'll leave that there. And then the whites, I don't want it too bright, just because then it's hard to look at. But I think somewhere around there is fine. So if we go back to our original, that's what we had originally. And this is what we have now. Already, I think it looks way, way, way better. I don't think I want to do too much with the tone curve. I kind of just did those adjustments up here. So we'll jump down to our color in our white balance, and I'm gonna add a little bit extra yellow. I think we'll go +2. And then I'm gonna drop the green down just a touch more. Actually, I think I'm gonna bring that yellow back down to 1, where it was before. I'm just feeling a little too yellow. So we brought the green down just hardly any at all, just 1. We left the rest as it was with the preset. And then with the vibrancy, I'm gonna bring it up a little bit just to make some of these colors pop a little bit more. I really kind of want this yellow to pop. So we're gonna go into our color mixer here, and we're gonna select the yellow channel. And we're just gonna bring up that yellow saturation here and maybe the luminance just a touch. I might bring this yellow down a little bit up here. And then we're gonna bring the green saturation just a touch down. I'm kind of liking where that's sitting. So the other thing that I forgot to show on the preset, what it does is adds a little bit of green to the shadows here in the color grading, and then a little bit of blue to the highlights. Now, sometimes I mess around with the highlights and see if I like the yellow highlight better, and in this case I do, but I do think we'll add a little bit of blue to the midtones here. And if you want to really fine adjust these, you can, under the color grading, you can click through and go to the shadow, midtones, and highlights, and then you can adjust, your saturation, and you'll have a little bit more fine control over it all. And I kind of want to brighten up the midtones, so we'll bring the luminance up, and I'm liking where that's sitting. So we'll go back, and there's our original image. Here is our image as it is now. And then I might look at these leaves here. So these are going to be in our orange channel. As you can see, we can really make them go crazy. But I think I'm going to make them a little bit more red. And then I'll bump the saturation just a touch and bring the luminance down so they're a little darker, just to kind of contrast from that yellow a little bit. All right, so we did our color grading here, and then we're gonna look at our effects or texture and our clarity next. I mean, everything in this is pretty distant, and I don't want to get something crazy like that when you really bump up texture and clarity. I kind of want it a little bit softer, a little bit more of that kind of vintage lens feel. And that's about it. I mean, the geometry stuff I do photo to photo, but everything else is pretty much how I go about editing for this kind of film look. Let's take a look at our final image here. We have the original, pretty dull, pretty neutral exposure as far as the white balance goes. And here is our simulated film look. So we're definitely sitting pretty heavy in the greens. I'm actually gonna go to the yellows here real quick and bring it away from the green. So our yellows are a little bit more natural yellow. But yeah, so that's gonna kind of wrap it up. We have our greens in the shadows, our blues and our midtones to kind of even out the yellow that we add to the highlights. And that's all I got. So yeah, that is the breakdown of how I get that kind of film look to my photographs. So if you like these kind of editing breakdown videos as far as photos go, leave a like and I will do some more and break down some other photographs that I think are worth looking at. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.